All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. As Raul pointed out, this presentation is about credit cards and it will be a two-part presentation. We'll be giving you a lot of information this week and then we'll be giving you some different information next week. And it's an appropriate workshop to attend, even if you already have a credit card or if you don't have a credit card yet. We'll be giving you a lot of good information. So again, it really is a two-part workshop and we would be delighted if you would come next week, same time when we will do part 2. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? Next slide, please, Raul. So today we're going to really give you an introduction to what a credit card is. We're going to talk about what exactly it is, who provides it, who lets you have that credit card, who should get one, why would I even want one? Do I want one? Is a credit card right for me? We'll be thinking about that because there are plenty of advantages and disadvantages to having a credit card. We'll be explaining to you some of the features of a credit card. For example, some of the fees that you might be charged, some of the interest charges, how they're calculated, what that is. And then we'll be talking about some of the good things about a credit card, which might be a reward program, and also how people get you to want their credit card by giving you a good introductory offer. Okay, so we'll cover all that today. And then next week, we're going to go on more, a little depth about managing your credit card. So we're going to take a look at a statement, a credit card statement, and we'll see what's on that and how you read it and understand it. We'll be talking about how you manage your credit card. We'll be talking about some very important things that a lot of people ask about, which is, what is my credit score? What is that? Does it matter? And what is a credit report? Are those the same thing? Are they different? And what do I need to know about them? We'll be telling you, this is really important, how to avoid fees and interest by managing your card well. And also everything you need to know about credit card balances. Okay, so really this week is going to be more about what a credit card is. And next week is going to be more about managing it well so that it is a good tool for you financially. All right, next slide, please, Ralph. So again, this just repeats what I just said. This is what we're going to be doing today. It's going to be quite a lot of information. And as Ralph said, you will be given a copy of the PowerPoint. So if you don't have time to make notes, that's fine because you will get the PowerPoint. But if you have questions, please ask them as we go along, okay? So on the next slide, let's just begin with saying, what exactly is a credit card? So a credit card, as many of you may know, is actually a way to pay electronically, okay, electronically. It effectively lets you buy something now, but pay for it later. Okay, so when you hand over cash or a debit card in the supermarket, you pay straight away. When you pay by credit card, you don't actually get charged until later, okay? So really, this is a short-term loan from the credit card company, okay? And it's a loan until your statement arrives and you have to actually send them some money to pay that bill, okay? So a credit card is a way to pay for your purchases either in person. I mean, I'm sure you've all been in the supermarket or, the biggest store like Macy's. You've been in there and you've used maybe or seen used a credit card put into one of those little machines and it reads your credit card and it gives you a little receipt. Okay, so you can do that in person or you can use your credit card, very useful, online. Okay, so if I want to buy something from Amazon, I can't hand over the money. Amazon's not here. But I can pay online with my credit card. And finally, this is also quite useful for a lot of people. It's a way to pay for your purchases in one payment. So you get your statement every month and you send the credit card company your check, and then they will accept the payment, and that covers all the purchases that are on your statement for that month. Okay, and we'll be talking a lot more about that later. What happens if I can't pay everything on my credit card, for example? We're going to be talking about that, but it does allow you to have all your purchases on that one statement and just pay it in one go each month. Okay, all right, so let's go over to Bob to talk a little bit more about this subject.
Anne mentioned debit card, and let's just get a little bit of clarity on what is the difference between a credit card and a debit card. They're both plastic cards, and they're both ways to pay electronically. And if you have both, you probably have pulled out your debit card thinking it was your credit card, or the reverse, because they look so much alike, but they do not work the same way. And it's important to understand why. As Anne said, the credit card lets you buy now and pay later. Importantly, it is not connected to your bank account. And importantly, you will not get a credit card if you are not approved by a bank or a credit card company to have that card. So there is a different process for getting a credit card, which is based on your credit history. And we'll certainly go into a lot of detail on that in our next session. But that's sort of the basis for the credit card. Because it's a loan, you're going to be approved for the credit card. A debit card, on the other hand, is coming from your bank account. It is a way to enable you to make payments right out of your bank account. So when you open a checking account, it is highly likely that they will hand you over a debit card, because it is simply a different way of paying. It is, like a credit card, a way of paying electronically. And the trick with the debit card is you can't use it if you do not have any money in your account. Because when you hand over your debit card and it goes into that little machine, as Anne mentioned, that little machine will say back, oh, you don't have the money to make this purchase. So that is a big difference between a debit card, which is directly connected to your banking account, and a credit card, which is not. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. So where would you get a credit card if you don't have one? A very obvious place to go is a bank. Banks issue credit cards a lot. And as you can see from the top of the slide, the two big ones in this country, MasterCard and Visa. And what's wonderful about MasterCard and Visa is they are widely accepted at most stores, most places for purchases. So they're very, very useful cards to have. Are there other organizations, financial institutions that provide credit cards? You bet, lots. Some of them are credit card companies, some of them are just bigger, but slightly different than a bank, financial institutions. The most obvious two, and you may have heard of them, American Express, Discover. They act very much like MasterCard and Visa. They are well known in this country, usually accepted, perhaps not quite as much as MasterCard and Visa, but same idea. A little bit different are the credit cards that are coming from the large retail stores and companies. Now, these are store cards. An example is Target or Macy's or Kohl's. These stores issue their own credit card. Now, the difference here is a store card can only be used in the store that has issued it. So if you have a Target card, you can use it to buy purchases at Target, but you cannot use your Target card at Macy's. So they are useful if you are very fond of a particular store and it's an easy way to make purchases, but they are limited in how you can use them. Certainly you can't use them in other stores. And then there's a sort of a, let's call it a mix. So there are some very large retail stores. An obvious one is Sears, which issues a credit card, but it's part of a bigger network, like a Visa or MasterCard. So with those very large stores that are part of a bigger system, a MasterCard system, a Visa system, those cards tend to be accepted much more like a normal MasterCard or Visa card. So that's a possibility as well that you may see. And if that's who provides them, now who should get a credit card? Could we go on to the next slide, please?
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
With the big network cards stores that have Visa and MasterCard, you can also go to Costco's. So a lot of people like to go to Costco's because you get in volume, in bulk, and you can get things cheaper. And you have to be a member to be able to buy there. So you have to have memberships, and Sam's Club is another one. So those are other ones that you can go to. It's good to know that about Costco's. If you haven't gone there before, that's how you do it. You have to go and sign up for a Visa or a MasterCard with them, different than the bank.
Yeah, and that's a great example too of the possible rewards, and we'll get into this, that you have, but also the possible limitations as far as how you use the card. Thank you. So who should get a credit card? People who have good and regular income is certainly something important to have. Why? Because with a credit card, you are going to get a bill every month. So with a credit card bill every month, you need income coming in regularly enough to be able to pay that bill. So that's the logic behind good and regular income. Who should get a credit card? People who don't have much debt, because as Anne mentioned, a credit card is debt. Short-term debt, we hope, but still it's debt. It needs to be paid down and ideally off by the end of the month. And then finally, who should get a credit card? Normally people with a good credit history, a good credit score. And as we mentioned earlier, we will go into the detail behind that. But basically, good credit history, good credit score. What does that mean? It's reflecting an individual, a person's ability to manage money, pay bills, be ready for financial and disruptions sometimes without a lot of trouble. So as you can see, if a credit card is debt, then somebody who is comfortable paying bills on time, keeping track of income, keeping track of other bills is much more likely to do well with a credit card. And with that, let's turn it back to Anne.
All right, so let's ask, why would I want a credit card? So it's very important just not to kind of think, oh, there's a credit card offer in the mail, I have to get a credit card. Okay, you really need to think before you get that credit card, why you want it, what you're going to do with it, right? Whether it's going to be useful. So there are several important reasons why someone might want a credit card. For example, to develop a good credit history. We'll be talking about this much more next week, but essentially a good credit history is something that lenders will look at if you want to take out a big loan, for example, a car loan or a mortgage to buy a house, for example. Lenders like banks will look at your credit history. So in order for you to build up a good credit history, they'll need to look and see if you pay your bills on time. And one bill that it's very important for them to look at, if you have one, is your credit card history. Okay, so do you pay your credit card bill on time and in full? So for some people, it's really important for them to build up this credit history by getting a credit card. Okay, it's also very useful, obviously, in emergencies. So some people have a credit card and they use that a little bit here and there, but mostly it's for that emergency. So if I'm living every month and I'm managing quite well and I'm paying all my bills and I'm even saving a little bit, that's great. I'm doing a good job. But supposing then there comes that day when my car is in a bit of an accident and something happens and I need a lot of repairs, the insurance won't pay for all the repairs, and I have to pay some out-of-pocket repairs, and it's going to be several $100s. Okay, that would be a kind of emergency where I need that car, otherwise I can't get to work, but that's a lot of money and I don't have it. So for that, I could say, okay, I can put that charge on my credit card. Okay, maybe my sister who lives in, I know, far away in Arizona, maybe she's suddenly a little bit sick and I need to go and take care of her. That's a lot in airfare and I don't have it. And this was an emergency, so I didn't have time to save up for it. Yes, so you know, I can't say, oh, wait a minute, I won't visit you while you're sick. You know, you'll have to stay sick a while because I won't be able to afford to come for a month. No, you can put that charge on your credit card. And as we just saw in the chat, somebody else said, yes, medical bills. Okay, these days, that is a real big worry for some people, is having unexpected big medical bills. And that's another thing that you can put on your credit card, okay? So it is a useful thing to have in emergencies. And we will talk more about that next week, because the thing that you have to do then is figure out how you're going to pay it off once it's on your credit card. But it is a good tool to have for emergencies. As I mentioned several slides ago, some people use it to keep better track of their purchases. Okay, if you buy things a lot using debit card or cash, and especially using a debit card, you know, maybe we don't keep track of it very well. We all get those little receipts, but, you know, maybe we don't keep such good track of them. And it's very easy to spend more money on your debit card than you have in your bank account, because you just keep handing it over, the money comes out automatically. And if you don't keep track, all those little purchases, you know, $3 to get a sandwich and, you know, $10 to go to the movies, all those small purchases can really add up. And then you suddenly are like, well, where did all my money go? What did I do? Oh, you know, oh, how many times did I use my debit card? So people do like to be able to see all their purchases on one statement and realize where they're spending their money, okay? So a credit card can keep very good track of what you're spending money on. And then we'll talk a lot more later about credit card rewards, but these are something that help you earn money or sometimes benefits towards a goal. So if you choose your credit card wisely, you do get some benefit from the credit card company. The credit card that I have gives me back cash and I save it all up. And, you know, once a year, I have some money I can spend on something. Okay, so again, if you're going to use your card wisely and manage it well, you can get some very good rewards, and a credit card is great for that. So on the next slide, let's go again and talk about some of the advantages of the credit card. As Bob has said, it gives you extra time to pay for things compared to your debit card and your cash, which the money comes out immediately from your account, or even a check, which might take a couple of days to clear. But yes, it might take a couple of days to clear, but it still will clear very quickly. Okay, you will only get about a couple of days worth of extra time. So essentially it buys you time, okay? As I just mentioned, it helps you pay for all your purchases together once a month. Okay, so your purchases will all just be on that statement. You can look and then you pay with one check and you're done. You can get this very good credit history. Again, we'll discuss next week, which can be very important for you. And also, this is very important. credit cards usually offer better protection in case of fraud or loss than debit cards. Okay, so most of the major credit companies at least offer some very good fraud protection, so that say there is an item on your credit card statement and you're like, wait, I didn't buy a new TV. What is that on my statement? Okay, you'll call the credit card company, you'll explain, and they'll say, we'll look into it. And then usually you will not be responsible for that expense, okay, because it was not your bill. Okay, but if somebody gets a hold of your credit card and uses it, then oftentimes that money is lost. You won't get it back. Okay, so a credit card can offer very good protection against fraud and scams. Okay, next slide, please. Now we'll talk about some of the disadvantages. Obvious big disadvantage, can't stress this enough. It is easy to spend a lot of money on a credit card. Okay, there will be a limit on the credit card, so you can't just spend all the money in the world. There will be a limit, but oftentimes still the limit is reasonable, and you can spend a lot of money, which you'll suddenly realize you can't afford to pay back. Okay, so we're going to go over next week how to make sure that doesn't happen to you. If you don't manage your account well, you can get fees. The fees can be very high, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but you really want to be careful to avoid those fees. And along with the fees, you can also get charged a lot of interest. Interest charges are sort of another kind of fee. And again, they can be a lot of money if you're not careful. And we'll talk again next week about how to avoid those. And we've talked about credit history. So if you have a credit card, you can build a very good credit history. On the other hand, if you don't manage your credit card well, you can destroy your credit card history, and you can end up with a very bad credit card history. Okay, and nobody wants to do that. So again, it has some good advantages, but also some disadvantages to having a credit card. And you have to be sure you can manage it wisely, or a credit card may not be for you. Okay, does anyone have any questions so far?
I see there's some activity in the chat box. Any questions or comments?
Yes, so I think Carolyn just put in that a lot of people also do look at credit history, as I mentioned, just if you want to get a loan for a car or a house or something, but also when you go to rent an apartment, oftentimes the landlord will ask for your credit history. And there are many other occasions. For example, even when you're in a new place and you're setting up your electric payments for your electricity or gas that you use, they may also ask you for your credit history. Okay, so many times that's going to be important. All right, if there are no questions, we'll go back to Bob to learn a little more.
Yeah, so let's get into a little bit more detail about some of the features that Anne was talking about. And as she mentioned, while it's dangerous sometimes to spend money, there is a limit to what the credit card company is going to allow you to in effect use, how much money you can use. And that is called the spending limit or credit line. This is the maximum amount that you can charge on your credit card. And it's quite simple. The way it works is if you have a credit line of $1,000, you can spend up to $1,000, but until you pay down some of that, that is as much as you can spend. So that's an important feature, a little bit of protection for both the credit company and you. And as Anne mentioned, there are a number of fees that you need to be careful about and knowledgeable of. The first is the annual fee. Not all credit cards have an annual fee, which is the amount that you pay each year just to have the card. Now, why would anybody do that? Well, some credit cards do have rewards or other benefits that are built into owning, if you will, that card. If that is something that's important to you, you may decide that the annual fee is worth, in effect, you're buying that additional benefit that this particular card will provide you. I never liked the idea myself, but there are definitely some people who value these special benefits that certain cards can deliver. But something to know about. Late fees and penalty fees. These are the amounts that are charged if you miss a monthly payment. And trust us, these are very heavy fees. Credit card companies do not like it when you do not pay them on time, at least the minimum amount they have asked for. So watch out for this one in particular. And then, of course, the one that probably most people know about is the interest payment. This is the cost to borrow money from the credit card company. And we can get into it in a little bit more detail, but the general idea is you buy something for $100, and when you get your bill, the bill says you owe the credit card company $100, and you've got 2 weeks to pay it. If you pay off that $100 in that 2-week period, you will not pay any interest on that charge. If you don't pay off that $100, if you pay off $25, you will be charged interest on what's left. So that's the way that's one of the ways the credit card companies make money. Other features just to know about, and we'll get into this in detail, but just to give you a feel for the range, rewards programs. Most credit card companies offer some kind of benefit, reward for using their credit card. And one of the types of rewards is actually an introductory offer. And we'll get into that in just a minute. So if we could go on to the next slide. And we'll discuss this in much more detail, but this notion of an introductory offer is one of the ways that a credit card company wants to attract your business. So it's the credit card company is saying, I'm going to give you a little bit better deal. And that's what the introductory offer is all about, this introduction, if you will. Now, the APR, what does that mean? What that means is annual percentage rate, which is a very fancy way of saying the interest that they're going to charge you on what you owe the credit card company. So this is the basic interest that is normally part of the ongoing cycle of the credit card company billing you, you paying off ideally everything, but if you can't pay everything, then that remaining balance is what you're going to be paying interest on. Now, how much interest? Obviously, that is going to vary with the interest rates in this country, but I can almost promise you that it is a very high rate. Interest rates in this country right now are quite low. The interest rate on when I checked my credit card was something in the range of 15 to 20% per year. That is an enormous amount of money. It's an enormous charge. So if you can, that's why we will say over and over and over again, if you can pay off that balance, because it makes every purchase you make very expensive if you don't. And as we point out in the slide, this is charged on what you don't pay at the end of the month. And finally, beyond the annual percentage rate and the fees, the late fees, there is a penalty APR. In other words, for the amount of money that you have not paid off, there will be, and is overdue, there will be an even higher amount of interest that you will be expected to pay. So when you don't pay down, when you don't meet the terms, if you will, of the credit card company by paying on time and by paying the minimum amount, the charges are very heavy. And this is where a number of people have gotten into trouble with credit cards, and why you hear these awful stories about people with credit card debt that they can't manage. And if you have no questions, let's go on to the next slide. Not all the news is bad, however. There are good things about a credit card in the way of rewards programs, which most credit cards do offer one way or another. And this is normally a benefit that grows every time you use the credit card. So a credit card company is trying to encourage you to use your card with these reward programs. And as a smart manager of money, you need to balance that benefit with what you can actually afford. So different cards offer different rewards. One of the more obvious and popular ones is this free miles for travel on airplanes. For those of you who do a lot of traveling, who want to go someplace, this is very, very popular. And can make it much easier to take that vacation, go visit family, what have you. Another very popular type of program is the cash back program. It's rather simple in that somewhere between 1% and 5% of the amount you spend is in effect allocated as points, and those points add up to cash back, and you can ask the credit card company for that cash back when you want it. I think Anne likes to do it at the end of the year. I prefer this program too, because it's money. Whether you get it into your checking account, which some credit card companies do, or they just basically give it to you as credit on your credit card statement. So it just reduces or eliminates whatever bill that you might have. And normally, at least some credit card companies will say any purchase. This will cover any purchase. Some credit card companies might limit it to certain types of purchases, depending on the card. Always good to know what your credit card company is offering. The other type of rewards program, and this would be a little bit more typical of the store cards, is the free merchandise or gift certificates. For example, a nice clothing store might offer either gift certificates or, I don't know, a $50 bonus if you go in and buy something. So for those of you who enjoy a particular store, it's certainly going to encourage you to go back to that store to build up the points, to earn the rewards. But you wanted the clothes anyway, right? So it's a nice feature if you enjoy that particular shopping experience. Okay, and moving right along, Anne, how about introductory offers?
So
there is one question in the
Oh,
chat.
okay.
You know
Yeah.
which credit cards have good rewards?
Mhm.
Do we know?
Yeah, you were saying that you two get good. You and Anne get rewards that you get at the end of the year. Which credit cards do you use that give you that?
Oh, I've got a Bank of America Visa card.
All right, so Bank of America Visa card. Anything
It's
else?
very, very simple.
I have the same. I have a Bank of America Visa card.
Okay.
So I will say though, as Bob just said, it depends what rewards you want. And it's really worthwhile. Terms change or offers change with credit cards. So it's worth asking around. So you can just, go into your bank and say, if I have a credit card with you, what are you offering me? and they'll say, oh, we offer a Visa card and we offer 1% cash back on everything you buy. But if you buy gas, you get 3% cash back. Okay, I think that's what my credit card does. My husband's credit card, he likes traveling. So his credit card gives him a lot of miles back. And we have used those miles to go on vacation. So for us, that's been great too. So you have to do some asking around. Yeah, and we'll see Emily and other people are putting ideas in the chat, but it's well worth ask your friends. Say to your friends, what kind of credit card do you have? Where did you get it from? And what rewards do you get on it? The rewards may change. So, I may get one reward because I opened my card last year. You may get a different reward if you open your card this year, because maybe they're really trying to get more people to have more credit cards. So, the rewards are better. It just depends. Some of the bigger banks, their main Visa cards, so all the big banks, like we have Bank of America, Wells Fargo, SunTrust, any of those banks that are bigger banks, they will have probably quite good rewards on their cards, but you should ask around, okay? Because it does change from time to time. And again, it depends what rewards you want. So one of my friends has a Brooke Brothers card because she has an important job where she needs to wear nice clothes. And the rewards that she gets is gift certificates to that store, which sells very nice clothes. So for her, that's more important than getting the cash back or getting miles. Okay. I don't think there's a particular website, but I think if you Google, I saw the question, I think if you just Google credit, good credit cards or good credit card offers, be careful. But if it comes up with some that are very mainstream banks, that kind of thing, then that's certainly a place for you to start and do more investigation. Okay. So again, with all things online, just be careful, but that's a good place to sort of start shopping around and just seeing what's on offer. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I would add is if it sounds too good to be true, be even more careful. Because you don't know how complicated the system is, so that you're going to be encouraged to spend more than you should have to get the reward that you want. And in effect, when you do that, then you are paying more for the benefit than it's worth. So you really got to consider that these companies are highly effective at merchandising, at selling, at attracting attention, and be cautious about especially something that sounds really good, too good to be true. It may not be true. You may be in a situation that you are not benefiting from.
Right. And usually the main MasterCard and Visa cards, as well as American Express and Discover, will offer you some kind of reward, either points, gift certificates, cash back. They all offer that kind of thing. Whereas on the other hand, something like Target or Macy's, they will only give you discounts or something on merchandise you buy in those stores usually. Okay, so generally a Visa or a MasterCard is a good way to start. And you could literally just go into several different banks in your area, ask if they offer a credit card, ask if you would be eligible or able to get one, and ask them what the reward program is, but also what the fees are and all the other things. Okay, so don't get too focused on just the rewards, because as Bob just said, it's a balance. Okay. And as Carolyn is saying in the chat, fees are one of the most important things. Okay, if they have very high fees, be careful, because you may fall into paying those fees. So it's a balance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But hopefully that answered your questions for the moment. So let's just go on to look
Oh,
at.
no. There's one more. There's one more.
Okay, sorry.
There's another good question. How am I going to receive the reward of my credit card? You want
Okay,
to talk
so
about that next week, or
yeah.
you want to talk about today?
I'll just tell you quickly. It usually builds up and you get told. So next week we're going to look at statements, but usually there'll be a place on your statement where it says, this is what your reward is to date. Do you want to claim it or get that reward back yet or not? And so for me, I just watch it grow every month. And then at the end of the year, I would usually call them up or go online and say, could you please credit that money to my statement? And so, I'll get, suddenly, sometimes quite a lot of money put on my statement. If the reward is gift certificates, again, you just call them up or go online and type in, I would like a certificate. The last time I did this, I got like a $50 gift certificate to somewhere or other. And, they just sent me it in the mail or sometimes in my email. So there's a place on your statement where it tells you how you get your reward, and you can get it usually at least monthly, or you can save it up. It doesn't go anywhere. It just waits for you to claim it. Okay, but we will talk more about that next week.
Anne,
Yes.
A question about on mileage on airplanes.
Mhm.
My understanding is that sometimes will roll off, that those will expire.
Oh.
That certainly happened to me, which is why I don't like, airplane miles, because
Yeah.
they only last for a certain amount of time and then you're done. So if you're not traveling regularly, could be a waste of points for some people.
Yes, so absolutely. Oftentimes rewards don't expire, but a very important one is airline miles, because a lot of people have seen those expire or run out because they weren't claimed quickly enough. Okay, so again, we'll talk more about this when we look at the statement next week, but just be very careful how long you can keep your rewards for. And I think many of us saw during COVID, when we couldn't travel, the airline may have even extended the period that you could use those miles. Sometimes they'll do that, but that's the kind of points that can expire. You have to be careful. Okay. So good. Those were fabulous questions. Great discussion. So let's go on and just talk quickly about what is an introductory offer. So when you first apply for a credit card, everybody wants you to have their credit card. Everybody is like, come to me, get my card. Okay. And part of what they do is they give you this good introductory offer. The thing that you have to realize, and this is really important, everyone, it's temporary. So they will give you this special offer, special deal, special terms, but only for a very limited period of time. Okay. And it might be for something like 3 months or 6 months or a year, okay? And it will only happen once. So you get the offer for a short period of time, and then the offer expires or runs out, okay? So, for example, some of the kinds of offers that they might make you might be that they would say, for 6 months, the first 6 months that you have your credit card, there will be no fees or very low fees. But after the 6 months, what will happen? You'll go back to being charged fees. Okay, so again, it's just for that short period of time. Or they may say similarly, maybe our offer to you is we'll give you a very low interest rate. So instead of charging you 18%, we'll give you an interest charge of, let's say, 2%, right? So that's great for 6 months, but then after the 6 months, it goes back up to what it should be, which is the 18%. And I'm saying for 6 months, sometimes the offers are only for 3 months or maybe for a year, but usually absolutely not longer than a year, okay? They also might give you better rewards, okay? So they might say, okay, we'll give you 3% back on every purchase you make, but after 6 months, it will go back to being only 1% on every purchase. Okay, but we'll try and encourage you to spend more because we're giving you better rewards for a little while. And sometimes, and this is usually not a good idea, but they'll give you a higher credit line or a credit limit. So they'll say, hey, you can spend up to $2,000 on this credit card. Okay, that usually isn't very good. You usually want to start with a smaller limit just to make sure that you can manage it. Okay, so all these introductory offers, what are they geared towards? They're geared towards making you want to spend more on your credit card, because that's how the credit card company makes money. The more that you spend on it, the more rich the credit card company gets to be, okay? And especially, you can get in the habit very easily. If there are no fees for 6 months, you can get in the habit of not paying off your balance. And then all of a sudden, after 6 months, wham, those fees are gonna hit you. And you're going to be, oh, you know, what did I do? I didn't learn how to manage my credit card well, because the company was doing its best to get me to spend as much money as possible. Okay, so introductory offers can be great. I can't stress enough that they're for a very short period of time, and they can get you in some very bad habits. So beware. Okay, again, it can be good, but it can get you in a lot of trouble because it gets you used to doing something that after a very short amount of time is going to cost you a lot of money. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide, please. So that's the main part of today's presentation. I'm going to go over some of the points that we covered today on this slide, and then Barb is going to have a little bit of fun with you on our last slide. So you'll be looking forward to that in a minute. So meanwhile, I just want to go over what we did, and I'm going to be asking you some questions. So Raul, I can't actually see if people raise their hands, but maybe you can ask people if they do raise their hands. Otherwise, please just unmute yourselves and speak. So today we learned what is a credit card and who provides a credit card. So can anyone tell me just one place where you can get a credit card from? You can just say it.
From bank.
Thanks. Fantastic. Is there any other place you can get them from?
Big stores.
Yes,
Yeah.
Department stores, for example.
And Macy.
Yes, absolutely. Big department stores like Macy's. Fabulous. So,
Iris has her hand up.
okay. And what do you have to say?
Iris, you have to unmute yourself. There you are. No, do it again. Unmute yourself.
Other stores, Target, Mart, Costco.
Yes, absolutely. All those big who have credit cards, all of them. Yes. Excellent. All right. Good listening, everybody. So now the next question is, we went over who should get a credit card. What do I think about when I think why I want a credit card? So what should I think about when I want a credit card? What is going to be important that I think about before I apply?
Why do I need this for?
Yes, most important thing. Do I really need it? Right? Or if the answer is I don't really need it, the answer still could be it would be useful in emergencies. Okay. What else do you have to think about before you go for a credit card?
Can I pay for it?
Absolutely. Yes. Excellent. So if I'm already having trouble because I tend to spend more money than I earn, right? If I'm already having trouble paying my bills, it's probably not going to be helpful giving me a credit card. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if I'm doing a very good job at managing my money, maybe I can manage a credit card, right? If I start small, that might be a good thing for me to have. And what might be another important thing that we need to look at that we're going to talk about next week? What might we want to think about for the future when we get a credit card? What might be important to us? Anyone? We want to get a good what? Maybe because I'm
Credit score.
Credit score and credit history, fantastic. And we will be talking about those next week. But yeah, our credit score and our credit history. We need to establish those somehow, and a credit card is a good way to do that. So excellent. Everybody remembered a lot of good reasons that we are going to be thinking, is this right for me? So that was some of the advantages and disadvantages, right? And does anybody remember either what kinds of features there are on my credit card, or what kinds of costs I could end up paying, or what kind of rewards I could get? Does anybody remember anything about any of those? Fees or
You can get any rewards like cashback or like miles for airplanes, or for example, just money for your purchases if you have a store credit card.
Absolutely.
So there are different options.
Yes, that's absolutely excellent. And there may be other rewards that we don't even know about. You know, we don't know everything. So it's wise of you to look at those credit cards and see what's good for you. All right. And why should we beware an introductory offer? Why should we be very careful about an introductory offer? Does anyone remember?
Because introductory offer, it's temporary, right?
Yes, excellent. It's temporary, and you're temporary for a very short period of time, right? Excellent. All right, so before we move on, and Bob has a little fun thing to do with us, does anyone have any more questions? Okay, if we're good, we'll ask again at the end, okay? But let's move on to Bob right now. And then when she's finished, we'll have a little bit more time for more questions, okay? So you can be thinking, all right?
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is whether Susie should get a credit card. So let's talk about Susie a little bit. Here is her story. She's 23 years old and just graduated from college. She's been offered her first job, and she has to move to a different state. She's had a bank account and a debit card the whole time she was in college, and mostly she has managed her account quite well. However, during her first year at college, she was overdrawn several times. She kept using her debit card without keeping track of her spending. Now, Susie would love to get a credit card. She wants to buy some furniture for her new apartment. And of course, she'd like some new clothes for her job. She thinks that putting all these things on a credit card would really help her to feel good about herself, to feel settled, to start her new life out in her new job. So you are Susie's best friend. What advice are you going to give Susie when she asks, should I get a credit card?
I don't think she needs a credit card for now.
She doesn't need one for now. Why not?
Because she don't know how to manage money.
She doesn't know.
And yeah, she doesn't know, sorry. And probably her goal to get furniture and clothes not very strong for it. For me, I don't know, maybe for her it's okay.
Maybe she wants some furniture, but you're thinking she's probably moving a little fast, huh?
Yeah, she can buy old furniture from someone, for example.
Well, there you go. Or maybe she's got an older brother that can lend her some, huh? Okay, how about other people? Does anybody else have any other perspectives, any other ideas?
Yes, for me, I think Susie, I agree with other classmates. I think Susie right now don't need a credit card because she first she don't have income. I don't know, maybe have, maybe don't have. Here, don't write. Second is she first year, she was overdrawn several times.
Mhm.
If she have credit card, she don't manage her credit card. Maybe she have high how to say APR annual per percentage rate. Maybe she paid more.
Okay, you're bringing up a couple of very good points. You're mentioning that first year in college, she was overdrawn. She did not do a particularly good job of managing her money. And you're wondering, is that going to happen again? And she's already thinking about some big purchases. Furniture usually costs money. New clothes for a job is not usually cheap either. So you're wondering, and that makes sense. Gosh, is this the right time to get a credit card? Can anybody offer a different perspective? Anybody want to say, well,
Yes,
Julie's
I
got her
see.
hand up, and
Yes.
and Iris.
yes. Yeah, I think she can get a credit card because she find a first job. So I think she can have the credit card.
okay, she now has a job.
Yes,
Yes.
she has been offered her first job, so I think she can pay the credit card. Yeah.
That's a very good point. One of our points about who should get a credit card is somebody with a regular, consistent income. Now, we don't know from the story what job this is, but let's guess that this is a regular, consistent paying job. So that's a good point. That's a very important point in Susie's favor. She's got that job. Anybody else? Iris, I think you had something.
I say that Susie prioritize about when buy something and she need to pay a couple of days before the last statement.
Okay, so you're saying she should, you said just buy a few things?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So perhaps what she should be thinking about is maybe not buy everything right away. But she could have a credit card if she's buying a few things and paying the bill, and then before buying more, instead of let's buy all the furniture we need, let's buy all the clothes we need, where to the points earlier, that could get her into trouble. Yeah. Okay, so a more careful spending plan and income, regular income. Some people now think, okay, Susie maybe could manage a credit card. Any other observations? Any other thoughts about Susie?
Probably she can get a credit card to improve her credit history.
Absolutely. If she does a good job of managing this credit card.
Yeah, especially because she has college loan. So probably it can help.
You know, that is an excellent point. We didn't say in this little story, how much debt does Susie have from being in college? And that would certainly be a question that any good banker would ask, because that's another issue. Who is a good credit card holder? That would be somebody who doesn't have too much debt. So this is not such an easy question to answer, is it? There's a little bit on both sides. I think the only other, does anybody have any other observations? No?
Yes,
Yes?
I put it in the chat.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. Sometimes credit card companies, where are we?
Sometimes credit card companies like and love when you have a lot of debt. They love that you are debt, because that means they're going to make a lot of money, but you need to show that you pay each month on time.
Yes.
To do that, they don't mind that you have a college student loan, as long as you're going to pay. And plus, when you get a student loan, you probably will talk about it next week, that if you have a student loan, they give you a year after you graduate that you don't have to pay any interest. So, they wait until you've gotten a job and all that. So they don't mind sometimes that you have a
Yeah.
debt.
I think what we're sort of getting into is, as a friend, you might say to Susie, be careful, maybe not right away, or maybe only spend a little bit and pay it off, and spend a little bit and pay it off, but be very careful because you don't want to get too far into debt, especially when you have possibly some big loans to pay off from college. But to your point, Caroline, credit card company might think she is a graduate of college, she has a job, she needs to get started, and yeah, this would be a good business for me because she's probably, she may spend more than she really should. And that means it's business for me as long as she doesn't go overboard. And a credit line will help to control not going overboard. So from a credit card company, the banker's perspective, this might be worth giving Susie the credit card because, and keep in mind, she did have trouble that first year, but then for 3 years, she did fine. She didn't have any more trouble managing her money. She didn't have any more trouble making sure she had enough money to, in her bank account to meet her obligations. So we've all made that mistake our first year when we're on our own, but 3 years is a pretty good track record for managing money as a student, for example. Now, becoming an adult on your own with a credit card and so forth, that's a whole nother level of complexity. But I can see where a banker might say, she's worth giving her that credit card, maybe with a limit. And a smart friend would say, don't spend the whole limit, not right away. Great conversation, guys. So do we have any other comments, questions? Okay, I don't see any. In that case, shall we turn it back to you, Raul?
All right, I guess so. I hope everybody has enjoyed today's presentation. Raise your hand if you definitely learned something new today about credit cards.
Yes, I love it.
All right.
Thank
So as I mentioned earlier, what I will do is I will email all of you as well as your teachers these slides so that you have the slides to both part 1 after today and part 2 next week. That way you can always have them, you can review them, ask us questions via email whenever you have any questions at all. And also, if you'd like to have the recording, I can share the recording as well. But if you have any other questions before we leave.
Just want to say that you may have questions over the week about today that you can bring to the class next week. So make a list of all your questions when you're looking at your own credit card and look at, if you have a credit card, look at your statement and see how well you understand it to get ready for class next week.
It's a
Yes,
very
that's
good point.
point. Yeah, yeah.